This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
Hello. Welcome to Partners in Crime, episode 154. We are back.
We are back.
We're not dead. And blowing me down with a feather, Mr Daws is back with us as well.
Look who's just turned up, sat down and made himself comfortable after months away. It is Mr Daws himself, whatever that means. Yes, hello Adam, how are you?
I'm very well.
Can I just say, although it must have been 3 months, I guess. I mean, last time I was here, the sun was shining outside, the leaves were on the trees, and life was full of jollity and the smell of barbecues in the air. And now here we are, the beginning of December. Cold, freezing, inner chills, Christmas coming, full of atmos, and the trees have just gone up. Your Christmas trees have just gone up, I noticed, in your sitting room. And
not decorated yet.
I
haven't got that far.
I wasn't going to mention that, and I wasn't going to be smug. But ours went up 2 days ago, and is fully decorated and flashing, and a rather beautiful sight. And yours is work in progress, and it will be very nice once.
No flashing in this house.
No
flashing in this house. But you have been very busy. You've been hobnobbing with your new friend, Sir Ian McKellen.
Yes. 8 times a week, twice on Saturdays.
I have heard that about it.
We did have a lovely time, I have to say. I mean, I was parachuted into the company to do the cherry orchard.
Always a dramatic entrance.
Absolutely, yes. And we had a marvellous time. It was a lovely company. It's a really very fine company of actors who put up with me for the duration of the run.
You after more work,
and a great play, and of course heading the company, Sir Ian himself. You know what? What I wasn't expecting, I knew it was going to be a challenging job, and in many ways, and I was really rather nervous about it. But what I wasn't expecting was the sheer joy of doing the play, Chekhov's Cherry Orchard, which is one of the greatest plays, I think, and also working with the likes of Ian and Martin Shaw and Jenny Seagrove and everyone,
and the other one,
and Francesca, and of course the Francesca Ennis, and a marvellous company of younger actors who were just so extraordinarily, wonderful in their own very special ways, and it was a real ensemble experience. I learnt a lot, I have to say, and what I wasn't expecting so much is I had a laugh, which is priceless. So I've got a lot to thank that company for, and I'm missing them.
Oh, well, hopefully you'll get to do something again. Have you got Sir Ian on WhatsApp or?
No, he's a Knight of the Realm. Can you imagine him on WhatsApp?
Knights of the Realm. Is it? I don't know. Is he more of a BBM?
No, he's
kind
a very
of guy,
good communicator. He's a tweeter, but I don't know. I can't see him doing WhatsApp.
Oh, has he followed you?
I haven't looked.
I would have done.
I haven't looked. It's not sort of a question. You ask someone. When
you can look. You can see, can't you?
You sitting on. We had a moment on stage where we'd sit right at the back of the stage, and it was so far at the back. It was right at the back of the theatre, nearly back on the street, a long way from the actual main action of the scenes playing out. But there was lots of improvisation. We were in a ballroom, and we used to have a jolly 20 minutes sit down at the back. Everyone allowed us a seat as
the older members of the company.
Exactly. So we sat there and chewed the fat at every performance, and it was hugely entertaining. One of those wonderful moments where you could sit and enjoy yourself. I mean, we should be saying that we were totally in character the whole time, and supporting everyone else. We were just having a good old gossip, really, most of the time, and enjoying the fact that our colleagues were taking the weight of the production, but yards from where we sat. So yeah, it was lovely. So that's over. But I'm back. I'm back with you. I'm back with this podcast, which I have to say I've missed tremendously.
Well, so have I. I mean, I've been obviously slightly busy myself. For those of you who aren't aware, the reason that we had a month off is because I have a young daughter now.
You do.
5 weeks old and a little bit. So yeah, been probably planned to have November off, didn't we? Well, you had pretty much since September, but Mr. Hobart gallantly stepped in.
Yes, thank you very much,
November
Mr. Hobart.
off, and yeah.
Well, and what a beautiful, beautiful little baby. Walking in today and meeting for the first time. Well done. I mean, I don't think you could have done it without Jo, but I mean, it was...
She put in some real effort. She did a sterling job.
I'm absolutely certain that she has. But congratulations. I mean, that's two bubbers in this house. One slightly older than the other, James, with his comprehensive knowledge of the solar system, and I haven't seen him for 3 months, so he's probably writing a thesis, and
I've not seen him for 2.
Up for his first Nobel Prize. But there we are. That's and another Croft has joined the Croft.
Yeah, when you're in a hospital and appointments and things, and going in for C-section, they said, "Oh, is this your second child? Is it?" I said, "I'd prefer if you'd call it last child." Yes, that is it. We are done now. No more in the Croft brood.
Well, I was saying to you earlier, this has nothing to do with crime, this is just to do with catching up. I hope everyone's got patience with this. Is that now my 3 children are 16, 18 and 21 respectively. Amy and I were saying just not long ago, it's funny that all those years of changing nappies and carry cots and prams and the hard work of sleepless nights and all the rest of it seemed to go on and on and on and on and on, and then suddenly stop, and you think, oh gosh, that's parenting done. And of course, as any parent of children who are grown up a bit, or certainly in their teenage years and over, no, it's only just beginning. Well, no, it's a full-time job being a parent. I don't know how anyone finds the time to do any sort of work at all.
Well, my son is 4 going on 16, so that's nice.
And going on 63 intellectually.
There is that.
There is that.
We should probably get on with some stuff.
Well, yes, I hope you've come prepped. I've got very little to say, but I have got one area of great enthusiasm, which
a little bit. I think Arsenic and Old Lace is going to be good this week. More on what that is in just a moment. Okay. If you are new to Partners in Crime, if you are, hello, welcome. This is pretty much what you can come to expect, but
better.
Yes. It's not just our listeners we want to welcome, it's also our patrons, people who are members of our Patreon thingy-majiggy. They will be very pleased to know that their free book of the month for December has now landed in their Patreon dashboard. It is Circle of Bones by Malcolm Richards, the first in the brand new P.I. Blake Hollow series. I'll read the blurb, that's what we do. When private investigator Blake Hollow finds the body of a missing teenager on the moors of rural Cornwall, a deep-seated childhood trauma is reawakened. For over 18 years, the veteran private eye has been tormented by the disappearance of her best friend. Now, reluctantly back in her hometown, Blake is shocked to learn that the daughter of another old school friend has vanished. Troubled by painful memories, Blake is determined to find Lucy Truscott alive. But her search takes a tragic turn when she stumbles upon the young woman's mutilated corpse. As local police detectives hunt for a cold-blooded killer, Blake is convinced that Lucy isn't the first victim and launches her own murder investigation. But is she wasting precious time by trying to connect the disappearance of her childhood friend to Lucy's murder? Or has Blake uncovered a secret serial killer whose grisly intentions are about to reach terrifying new heights? That's usually £3.99 on ebook, but it is yours absolutely free if you're a Partners in Crime patron. That'll be in your dashboard now. Circle of Bones by Malcolm Richards.
Very nice. Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Indeed. Should also, talking of our absence, say a huge thank you to LJ Breedlove, who was the author of our November book of the month, who didn't actually get a shout out on the show because we didn't have any in November, but our Patreon members did still have the first Mac Davis thriller, Trust No One. I probably shouldn't just rename people's book titles, should I? Trust No One by LJ Breedlove. He got that completely free last month through the Patreon dashboard. For those of you who aren't Patreon members but do still like to know what the book of the month was and perhaps have a look at it, here's the synopsis. I'll read that out as well, because that's what we do.
Good grief. Well, listen, while you're doing that, I need to get my phone. So you carry on and I'll get my phone from the kitchen.
Yeah, you let yourself out quietly.
You see,
I'll carry on. I'll put it on studio camera for our patrons.
Just because I'm back doesn't mean I'm being professional.
No, naturally not. Howard Parker wants to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he isn't going to let a bunch of Marines who are in the wrong place at the wrong time stand in his way, even if one of them is now a reporter in Seattle, his hometown. What are the odds? Former Marine Mac Davis likes being a cop reporter. He gets a regular paycheck, and no one is shooting at him. What's not to like? So yeah, he has to hang out around cops, but every job has its downsides. Then someone tries to kill him, roughs up his aunt, kidnaps an old Marine buddy, and Mac is going to find out why. And then he'll put a stop to it, one way or another. If the tools of a reporter won't get the job done, well then, he's got other tools to use. There we are, that's book one in the Mac Davis Thrillers series, featuring a Marine-turned-cop reporter in Seattle. You can, you've already had that if you're a patron. If you're not, then you can go and get it from, we'd recommend Kobo for reasons that will become clear later on. But our patrons get early access to every episode of Partners in Crime. They also get to watch it in full HD video. If you are a patron, you'll be sitting here, perhaps watching us rather than just listening to us. Multi-camera setup as well. They get access to an extra bonus episode each week, Partners in Crime, Arsenic and Old Lace, which we record after the main show and talk even more nonsense and waffle. They get that free book of the month every month, courtesy of Kobo, and we would love for you to join them. So have a look at the link in the show notes or head over to patreon.com/Partners in Crime podcast. And there you go, you get more guff from us. Bob, you back with your phone?
Yes, I'm. Have you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, fine. Very good, by the way. Excellent. So here we are. I am back, and I have arrived back with a very strong recommendation. And it's a new book, half written by a friend of mine, Dr. Julius Green, who also happens to be a top West End producer. And he has written a new book with Christopher Andrew called Stars and Spies, Intelligence Operations and the Entertainments Business. So there we are. Interesting bedfellows, those two things. But here we are. I've got the book. For those who can't see it, they're going to have to
I've
hear
always
it.
wondered about Eamon Holmes. I had him down as a secret agent.
Eamon Holmes Elementary, my dear. Right. So this is it. This is what it sounds like, because it's a lengthy book, but I have to say, a fantastic read. Here it is.
Oh, yeah.
Goes on and on and on. It's very, very comprehensive. I'll read you the blurb because, as Adam says, that's what we do, and because
saves us doing some real work.
It does, but also it was much better than anything we could come up with. Stars and Spies, Intelligent Operations and the Entertainment Business by Christopher Andrew and Julius Green. Clears his throat. A hugely enjoyable and original history of the interplay between spying and showbiz from Shakespeare to James Bond. Throughout history, there has been a consistent crossover between show business and espionage, often producing some of the most extraordinary undercover agents and occasionally leading to disastrous and dangerous failures. I'm going to cough again. That's better. You've got to be careful. You can't cough. Can't cough freely anymore.
It's a shame we don't edit this, isn't it?
It's just as well. Anyway, you get more for your money. There's a few cuts. Anyway, I'm going to launch straight in again with this. The fact that one relies on publicity and the other on secrecy might seem to rule out a successful symbiosis. But as both require high levels of creative thinking, improvisation, disguise and role-play, they inevitably attract some remarkably similar personalities. Stars and Spies is the first history of the interplay between the two worlds. We travel back to the golden age of theatre and intelligence in the reign of Elizabeth I, where we meet the playwright and spy Christopher Marlowe. In the Restoration, we encounter in Alfra Ben the first professional female playwright and the first female spy to work for the British government. We visit Civil War America, Tsarist Russia, Paris, where some writers, actors and entertainers become efficient and vital agents, while others are put under surveillance by the burgeoning intelligence services. As the story moves through the 20th century and beyond, and the role of spying in world affairs becomes more central, showbiz provides essential cover for agents to gather information while hiding in plain sight. The astonishing array of those who were drafted into the intelligence services include Somerset Maugham, Graham Greene, Noel Coward and Alexander Corder. At the same time, spying enters mainstream popular culture, from the adventures of James Bond to the thrillers of John le Carré and long-running TV series such as The Americans. Written by two experts in their fields. Christopher Andrew, arguably the world's leading intelligence historian, and theatre producer and entertainment historian Julius Green. Stars and Spies is a unique and highly entertaining examination of the fascinating links between the intelligence services and show business. And this is the response they've had from the Times. Almost every page includes a sizzling historical titbit. Captivating, insightful and masterly, Edward Lucas says in the Times. The doyen of intelligence historians, says Adam Sisman in the New Statesman. Both brilliant in its sweep and near miraculous in detail and confident judgments provided on 2.5 millennia of spying. A crowning triumph, says John Lloyd in the Financial Times. So it's had a great critical response, and I have to say I'm absolutely loving reading it. It's something that I've always been sort of interested in. But this is, as with Julius's last work on Agatha Christie, Curtain Up, which is the last word on Agatha Christie's stage works, this is so comprehensive and entertaining. I can strongly recommend it for any Christmas stocking this year. I have to say, been dipping in while I've been working, but I am now earnestly getting stuck in and finding it just terrific. I had a conversation with Julius actually last month about it, and because a friend of mine, Christopher Matthew, had written a play a couple of years ago, a very fine play, which was set in Malibu, at the Malibu home, this is in the 1940s, of Randolph Scott and Cary Grant. And it's all about Noel Coward coming to visit Hollywood and coming to their place in Malibu because British intelligence, for whom Noel Coward was working with, were very worried about Errol Flynn and his supposed right-wing leanings. And the British government were hugely worried about Errol Flynn coming out in favour of the Nazis. So Errol Flynn, of course, turns up in the play, mostly for the second half, and it's a fascinating exploration of intelligence at work and the lives of these Hollywood stars. So that was the first time I was sort of interested to find out that Noel Coward was in actual fact worked for British intelligence. And as I've just mentioned, this book actually names many more than I've just mentioned. People who you go, my goodness me. That's what they were doing in times of war and, in fact, in times of peace. So there we are. Stars and Spies. It's available in print, of course, but it will also be available on a certain electronic platform called Kobo.
Yes, who very kindly sponsor Partners in Crime. They are one of the world's largest ebook retailers, and as a listener to us, which you are because you are listening to us, you can get a massive 90% off of your first ebook purchase from Kobo. You don't need an e-reader or any special device. You can even read on your phone or tablet if you wish. Just head over to kobo.com, enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, and if you're an existing customer, follow the link in the show notes and use promo code PARTNERS to get 40% off of selected ebook purchases. Boom.
Marvellous. Mic drop.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Want some news?
Yeah, let's have some news.
We should do, shouldn't we?
I like this bit because Adam reads it out and I get a chance to react if I've got anything any use to say, which I usually don't.
Well, let's see, because the shortlist for the 2021 and Post-Irish Crime Fiction Book of the Year Award, sponsored by the Irish Independent, has been announced. And it says here, in the Independent of Ireland, what diversity among their ranks. You got a Booker laureate, two-time former winner of the prize, a lawyer, and a number of rising stars. Women dominate the shortlist again, with 4 from 6. In crime writing terms, at least, the female of the species, it says, is more deadly than the male. Indeed, only 2 men have won the Crime Fiction Book of the Year in its dozen-year existence, and none since 2011. I see you leaning forward when I put the main camera on there, so you didn't look too relaxed, Bob.
Well, I've just realised that look what happens if anyone's watching this. This chair goes... And
it creaks as well, doesn't it?
It does creak. No, that's me.
That's your back.
That's very comfortable. I could actually stay in that position for the rest of the podcast, but of course I won't.
I wouldn't. I've set the mics for where you're sitting now.
Pray continue. No man has won it since 2011. There we are.
Indeed. And, here's a shortlist. It's Jane Casey for The Killing Kind, whose previous victory came in 2015 and 2019. The Killing Kind apparently has every chance of completing the hat-trick. John Banville's April in Spain. He just, in 2005, The Sea had just won the Booker Prize, culminating 3 decades of acclaimed work as one of literature's finest stylists. And now he's turned his pen to crime novels with Benjamin Black. Andrea Mara, All Her Fault. It's probably not all her fault, but that's what she's called the book, so when I read it out, it sounds a bit like that. You can blame her. That is all her fault, that bit. In 2016, Andrea Mara switched tracks from blogging and freelance writing to crafting mysteries, and how that decision has paid off, say the Independent of Ireland. Her debut novel, The Other Side of the Wall, was an instant smash. The follow-up, One Click, was shortlisted for Irish Crime Novel of the Year in 2018, making this 4th thriller her 2nd time in contention. Catherine Ryan Howard, 56 Days, has also been nominated for the prestigious Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award and included in The Guardian's list of 50 great thrillers by women written since 1945. Her 3rd novel, that is Rewind, is being developed for television. Sam Blake's The Dark Room. Sam Blake is a founder of Writing.ie, a brilliant writer's resource, the Inkwell Group Publishing Consultancy, and Murder One, which is Ireland's premium crime writing festival, so she keeps herself a bit busy. But in her spare time, she's also a board member of the Society of Authors, fellow of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of the Arts, Manufactures and Commerce, past chair of Irish Pen, and convener of the Irish chapter of the Crime Writers Association. So, yeah.
My goodness me.
Yeah, she needs to up her game a bit, frankly. And
slacker.
And completing the list, Steve Kavanagh's The Devil's Advocate. He was also nominated, but lost out last year. So there we go. The Irish Crime Fiction.
It's a very fine. I mean, I would welcome any of those on my electronic reading device, I have to say.
Your Kobo?
Yeah, my Kobo. Right now, moving on to some television now, because as you know, this is a part of Partners in Crime that we like to keep up with the goings-on in crime thrillers, murder mysteries across the board of mediums, and this is going to be old news to all of you, but please remember that I've been semi-retired for 3 months, and I'm just slowly coming back into circulation after such a hibernation. I would get home late at night, and of course, if you're doing theatre, I'll get home at around about 11:30, and of course, instead of being in bed, which I normally would be at that time of day, you're as awake as can be. The adrenaline's been flooding through your body for several hours, and you've driven home, and the last thing you want to do is go to bed. So you tend to watch I tend to watch the television, make myself some toast, and have a little glass of red wine. So there we are. And along the way, I picked up a recommendation from a friend of mine, a French friend of mine, needless to say, of a BBC, showing on BBC, a fantastic drama called Paris Police 1900. Now, let's face it, that doesn't exactly inspire you with much confidence it's going to be any good. It sounds like a sort of just a sort of a rather dreary documentary about Paris police in 1900. But don't let that title fool you. It is, I think, one of the best things I've seen in some considerable time. Now, Adam will no doubt say, well, that's because it's from the stable that brought you Spirale. I had to get that in. I've been away 3 months. I cannot do a podcast without mentioning Engrenage. And indeed it is. It's Canal Plus. And it is brilliant. So I'll just read you a little bit about it, just in case you haven't seen it. And if you haven't, I beg you to go to BBC iPlayer and catch up with it. So this is the marvellous Paul Heron's in Killing Times, a great resource keeping us up to date with all great things going on in the world of crime fiction on screen. And this is what he has to say. Before we go any further, you have to say Paris Police 1900 was a wholly surprising bolt from the blue. We got no fanfare, no prior warning. This 8-part series came from nowhere to become one of the best of the year, if not the best. It's been an incredibly immersive and cinematic series, as well as grand in scale, ambition, chock full of flawed, complicated characters, and a storyline that was as much a cautionary tale as it was a history lesson. We got to see the full-blooded, terrible violence of the turn of the 20th century Paris in all its grisly ferment, all against a backdrop of fast-developing technology. And yet it always felt it was mired in barbarism, brutal murders, heinous, naked anti-Semitism, gnawing sadness, and violent encounters. How would one navigate such a contrasting world of opulence and affluence and poverty-stricken squalor is beyond me. And it all revolved around a real moment in history, the Alfred Dreyfus affair, with fictional characters battling their own corners for control of the soul of the city. With all this brutality swirling and the standoff between Inspector Lepine and the loathsome narcissist Jules Grain, forgive my pronunciation, I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it. It will do. At the end, it's French. At the end of episode 6, I was steeling myself for an almighty street battle between the police and the assembled leagues. However, that didn't quite happen. Now, it goes into the plot here, which I don't want to spoil anything. It's full of extraordinary characters. One of my favourites was a character called Puberon. It's a wonderful name, Puberon. In fact, Paul Heron says, I will never tire of that name spoken in French, and I know exactly what he means. But he goes on to finish after explaining the plot. In Paris Police 1900, we got some huge themes, world building to an extent, and plenty of incredible depth when it came to characters. I stand by what I said before. This played out like a Scorsese movie written by James Ellroy, combining, as it did, incredibly flawed, flinty characters who crossed streams with one of France's most sensational socio-political moments. It's also suffused with a surrealistic, grotesque kind of humour. Think Jean-Pierre Genet's delicatessen, especially when it came to the framing of Bertillon and his bustling gang of forensics. There is a rumour that creator Fabien Nury wants to make 4 series of Paris Police. After watching this largely incredible first instalment, I would welcome each and every one of them with open arms. And I agree with Mr. Hirons on that. I was absolutely drawn into this world. Beautifully done. The design, as much as anything else. The detail, the cinematography, the script, the acting, of course, the direction. I mean, there was no part of it that wasn't absolutely first class. And it does draw you into a very, very, very seedy world of Paris. And as Paul Heron says, full of violence, full of political and police corruption, and that's a turning point of history, and incredibly relevant, dealing with the growing sense of anti-Semitism at that time, and people would argue that it hasn't necessarily changed worldwide now in any real sense. It's incredibly vivid, although a period piece, incredibly contemporary in its themes, and I can heartily recommend that you watch it. And again, I say it is on BBC iPlayer, on Catch Up. Catch it while you can. Paris Police 1900 does exactly what it says on the tin.
Good. And on the plus side, I managed to clear 42 emails from my inbox while you were waffling on there. So all is not lost.
I have my uses, don't I?
Yeah, all is not lost. Something else I was going to throw in, because I mean, we've got loads to go into Arsenic and Old Lace, absolutely tons of stuff we've not got to today, even though we will overrun slightly, because I wanted to mention codcare.org.
Of course.
Yeah, you've never heard them. Have carried an article by Jason Kotke. There we go. I think we know how that website got its name. He on there they have a a feature called Why Is This Interesting? And they had one about the golden age of detective fiction.
Right.
Which is the period between the World Wars in which a certain style of murder mystery novel
Yes.
took hold. Agatha Christie's, your Dorothy L. Sayers and whatnot.
I've never heard of Whatnot. I've never read her books.
No,
the other two I know.
Andrea Whatnot. Scott Stedman talks about the rise and fall in the genre and also focused on the fact that the central feature, it says here, of many of these whodunits was that the reader had access to all the same information as the detective and could, in theory, figure things out before they did. And this is the thing with mystery novels, really, and crime in general, is that the reader should at least have a chance to work it out. You shouldn't, you don't want them to. You have to give them all the clues,
yes,
and you have to give them the ability to work it out, but still stop them and misdirect them. It's a little bit like magic.
It is a little bit, at its best, it's very much like close magic. Yeah, I agree.
And
it keeps you up at night, worrying about how to do
it. It does when you're
or
writing.
even, in fact, if you have ever done it.
Yeah,
but
if your readers think you're up at night thinking about a plot and wondering who done it, then think of us poor writers who've got to try and figure it out in the first place. But in 1929, Ronald Knox wrote down 10 rules in order to make that possible.
Yes,
Some of them are a little bit odd. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with them, but let's have a look at them now, because I find them very interesting. Number 1, the criminal must be someone mentioned in the early part of the story, but must not be anyone whose thoughts the reader has been allowed to follow. I kind of agree. I try and mention my murderer as early as is practicable. The not anyone whose thoughts the reader has been allowed to follow. I can see why that's there.
Yeah.
But it can be done if done in the right way.
It certainly
And
can.
I have done that. I'm not going to say where and when, but also Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
Managed to do that. Number 2, all supernatural or preternatural agencies are ruled out as a matter of course, unless you're writing supernatural mystery. Fair enough. Not more than one secret room or passage is allowable. Number 3. Number 4, no hitherto undiscovered poisons may be used. Fair. Nor any appliance which will need a long scientific explanation at the end.
No, I wouldn't know where to start on that anyway, so that never occurs in my books.
Yes. They have changed one of them by saying no racial stereotypes.
Yep.
Do you remember what that was originally, number 5?
No.
No Chinaman must appear.
Well, there we are.
That was the original, which, yes, probably best to change that.
Yes,
Number 6, no accident must ever help the detective, nor must he ever have an unaccountable intuition which proves to be right.
No acts of God.
Not unaccountable intuition, but as long as you can prove that something was behind the intuition.
Yes, you've got to show your workings out eventually.
So you're working out exactly that, yes. Number 7, the detective must not himself commit the crime.
Well, I think we can honestly say that that's probably been not adhered to over the years. I mean, certainly from the point of view of the unreliable narrator.
Indeed. Number 8, the detective must not light on any clues which are not instantly produced for the inspection of the reader. Number 9, the stupid friend of the detective, the Watson, must not conceal any thoughts which pass through his mind. His intelligence must be slightly, but very slightly, below that of the average reader. And number 10, twin brothers and doubles generally must not appear unless we have been duly prepared for them.
Well, there we are.
The rules by which we're meant to apparently...
And they're meant to be broken. Actually, just having done a Chekhov play, one of the rules that Chekhov actually stated was that if you have a gun appear in Act 1, then it must be used in the play. And having just done the Chariot Orchard, as I mentioned, a gun does appear in Act 1 and doesn't get used. I mean, used in a sort of violent manner, that is. So rules are there to be broken, even by the people who make them.
Yeah, I think it's this idea that you should not only provide the clues that are going to be part of the outcome, but if you're going to introduce clues and elements and things in order to try and make people think they're on the right track when they're not, you do still need to tie them up somehow. You can't just introduce random loose threads that don't go anywhere.
What I've hoped, certainly in my books, is when I've used that sort of structure of whodunit to some degree, is that the identity of the killer remains pretty hidden until around about the last quarter of the book, where a reader hopefully begins to go, I wonder if it's so-and-so. And then there's a different sort of reaction to it. They think they're right. And sometimes they may very well be. So there's this great satisfaction, hopefully, in actually just working it out at that particular
That's the point.
area.
You want to do another little bit of misdirection.
Yeah, you don't want
it
it any earlier than that. Certainly not, because hopefully that will generate a bit of excitement. And of course, the best of all is when a reader actually reaches that point, thinks they know exactly who it is, only to have the carpet pulled from under their feet and discover it's someone else. And then, of course, the trick is that they will think back on the book and go, how did we miss that?
Because us writers are extraordinarily clever, good looking, great fun to be with, all of those
Charismatic.
things. Charismatic.
Bullshitters.
Mainly bullshitters, yeah. Right, I think on that we should be done. I think I'm pretty
Is that us
sure
already? That was quick.
Oh yeah, we're going on for 40 minutes.
Gosh,
yeah.
you wait 3 months for a podcast and...
I know. I think Moriarty, I'm going to have to try and fight him about the episode title. I'm pretty sure he's going to want to call it Bullshitters now.
Oh, God. Why don't I keep my big trap shut?
Exactly. Right.
Well,
but we are going to go and get a coffee, I think, and
Yes.
then do Arsenic and Old Lace, which is our after show for our patrons. So if you are watching this through Patreon, then Arsenic and Old Lace will be ready for you. And if you're not, because you're not a patron, do check out that link in the show notes so you can see our mugs as well. And not just our coffee mugs, our actual
mugs.
Right, I'm done. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm spent.
Yeah.
Spent force.
It's hard work
I'm
trying to
not
remember
used
how to do this after
I
months.
know. I've got to go into training. I'm going to go into training. I'm just going to walk around my house just talking non-stop. Wait a minute. I do that anyway.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Faish. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.